Welcome on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors of Western Washington's Professional Development Council. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jared Malone, Membership Development Manager here at ABC, and I would love to chat with you more about the benefits of membership with us. In the meantime, please enjoy part 2 of Cybersecurity with a Focus on NIST with ABC member Scott Anderson of Kelley Connect.
Thanks for joining today to our NIST Cybersecurity Framework webinar. This is part 2 from a recent series, continuing from our Cybersecurity Best Practices webinar. So thanks again for joining. Hopefully some valuable content today. Be a little shorter and sweeter today. For those of you I haven't met, I am Scott Anderson, Senior Vice President at Kelley Connect. Kelley Connect is a technology services firm with 29 locations throughout the Pacific Northwest, working with companies across their technology footprint in their business and helping them drive success strategically through those solutions. So today we're just going to talk through really two things. Why framework is important to a security strategy. So why should a security strategy be based on framework? And we'll talk about the framework today, and then what framework to follow. So pretty simple here. The NIST framework we talked about last time we got together, and we're going to go into some more detail on that today. And one refresher, just why are we even talking about this? Why are we talking about a security strategy and a security framework? Because the threats are real. All of us are under constant attack. 93% of phishing emails involve ransomware. This is big business today. The ransomware, the social engineering, the phishing is much more advanced than it used to be. So it is tough to stop. And most people probably aren't aware, but 91% of cyber attacks start with phishing. It doesn't start with somebody trying to punch a hole through your firewall or a real advanced hack. It starts with us clicking on the wrong links. Again, 90% being due to human nature. And 50% of companies, small and medium businesses, consider training a necessity. I should say that's only 50%. Big part of the story here is our people are not trained, thus they are a cause of the breach. So that's why we're talking about why a framework is even relevant today. So what are we talking about? The NIST CSF core components, the NIST components that make up a security framework. NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. The United States put together a policy to enhance the security and resilience of the nation's critical infrastructure. And so this is called the NIST framework. The CSF piece means cybersecurity framework. And there's 5 core components of this framework that we think are relative and important for everybody to understand. The first is identify. So just to develop an understanding of the organizational systems, assets, data, and capabilities. Everything your organization needs to function. Because if we don't identify this, we really can't even go on to the next steps. Right? How do we protect something if we don't know what it is? Which leads us into the second piece of the framework, which is protect. So protecting is defining the appropriate safeguards to ensure delivery of organizational goals, assets, and services. So really the protect function safeguards a company's digital assets. So the company can continue, can meet its goals, can grow, can remain in existence. The third piece of the framework is detect, which is identify the occurrence of a cybersecurity event and hopefully do that in a timely manner. So detecting, pretty crucial part of it is detecting when an event does happen. Next piece of the framework is to respond. Respond is take action, right? We detected an event. Now we have to take action of that cybersecurity event. And the last piece of the framework is to recover. So At some level, hopefully we never have to get to number 5, but when it does happen, we want to make sure that we can recover. So maintain plans to restore any capabilities or services that were impaired by a cybersecurity threat or cybersecurity breach. So those 5 pieces are the framework that makes up NIST. And we think it's really crucial that any cybersecurity strategy takes this into account, and any strategy is based on these components. So some real world on these components and some good analogies, I think, is our house analogy. Why are those components a good part of the framework? So, we asked the question, how many of you live in a house, or how many of us have been stuck in our house for way too long here? And then we asked to start thinking about, what is it in your home that you want to protect? And then how are you locking down your house to protect these valuable things? You probably lock your doors, shut your windows, maybe have an alarm system. So how do all those pieces, from an analogy standpoint, tie into the NIST framework? So the core components, we're just going to kind of walk through these things here. And if I'm securing my house, I might have doors and windows, locks. I might have an alarm system. I might have a dog out front that's going to bark loud or bite the intruder, police, neighborhood watch signs or program insurance, doorbell cameras. And the list really kind of goes on and on of what those pieces would be in a house. And we can see how those pieces fall into each category, right? Identifying on the left, identifying what I want to protect: my family, my collectibles, my computers, what's valuable to me. How do I protect those in my house? I've got doors with locks. I've got a yard sign that says ADP on it. But then what about when somebody breaks through the lock? How do I detect? Might have an alarm system, might have a Ring doorbell. Maybe my neighbor is watching through his window. And then now that I've detected, how would I respond in that instance? My dog might attack the intruder, might have insurance, baseball bat, whatever that might be, would be how I respond. And then how do I recover, right? At the end of the day, I've got to be able to recover if I am breached. So sometimes that might be insurance, backup, whatever those pieces might be. So as we dive into real world, then when we start looking at an IT security strategy, how does that relate in that case? Again, moving from the left to the right, we're identifying what are the critical assets. Is my most critical asset QuickBooks? Would I be out of business if I didn't have QuickBooks or my CRM system? In that case, how am I going to protect these systems? We've got tool sets in place to do that, between a firewall, antivirus, security awareness training for our people. So we need the technology in place to protect. Then how do we detect? And I would say this is where organizations start to miss. A lot of organizations have identified, and a lot of organizations have different tool sets to protect. But what about when something gets through the protection? How is it detected? And this is where more advanced security comes into play. This is a critical piece. And then response. How do you respond, right? Something gets clicked on by a user, not detected, and is now on the network. What is the response strategy, and how do we even know we need to respond? Do we have a team in place that can respond 24/7? And then again, end of the line, past responses, how do we recover? There was a breach. Maybe there was ransomware installed across a file server. How do I recover? Do I have a system in place that can help me do that? Do I have a business continuity plan? Do I have backups that I can restore from? Worst case scenario, do I have cybersecurity, cyber insurance, I should say, to help me recover? So when we look at this in person, when we have this conversation, ask for a show of hands for which of these pieces of the framework is the most critical. And in case you're wondering, it is detect. We believe detect is the most critical part of the framework, because if we don't detect when there is a breach, how can we respond to it or recover? So we believe, again, as we close, that the NIST framework is a framework that is not just for big organizations. It's not just for government organizations. Really, it applies to all organizations that have an IT infrastructure and that have critical assets to protect. Hopefully that was helpful around the NIST framework. Happy to have additional conversations amongst it as well and talk about how it can apply to your business. Thanks for joining.